What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my very first deck profile of 2021. Yes, my first deck profile. And this is one that I've actually been working on for quite some time, actually, for literally most of 2020. I was finally able to get this complete. This deck is using some of the new cards that are going to be coming out of the new set, Lightning Overdrive. And if you haven't guessed already, it is the Black Rose deck. I actually had two. I actually have two different versions of it, but the first one that I had, it wasn't up to par. But after looking at after looking at this at the deck that I saw at some of the different variants that I saw online, I actually decided to take some of them and just kind of mix it up a little bit. So this is basically like my own version of the Black Rose deck. Honestly, I actually did a little bit of test playing. Not just over the weekend, but also like earlier this morning, and it is super consistent. It basically gives you the ability to make some of the big beaters turn like turn 1, turn 2, and basically just attempt to go for OTK, which is pretty much what most of the decks nowadays do. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. And so yes, it is the Black Rose deck using some of the new cards coming out of Lightning Overdrive. I believe in the OCG. Ooh, excuse me. I believe we're supposed to be getting it sometime in the spring, I believe, but in the TCG, I believe we're supposed to be getting it sometime in the summer, like sometime in the summer, during the fall, somewhere around there. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So for the monsters, first up, I am actually running one copy of World Carryweight Champion. Probably the best extender of the whole deck. If you don't know what the card does or where this came from, this actually came out of Shining Victories in 2016, 2017. And the card says, and its effect says, if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one plant monster from your hand or face up from your field to the grave, except this card. Special summon this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's basically its own. It's basically a glow up bulb, but the only difference is that with glow up bulb, with glow up bulb, it gets banished when it leaves the field, doesn't it? If I remember right. It actually. Okay. So the only difference is that with glow up bulb, it's a once per duel. With Carryweight Champion, it's a once per turn, so you can use the effect over and over again during each of your turns, which could get you into which could help you make cards like Black Rose Dragon, or even also Moonlight Dragon, Cyphering Lord Omega, pretty much anything at this point. So what's cool about this is that there will be some people who will make a mistake and say that it's better to run it at 2. The thing is that it's better to run it at 1 because if it's in your graveyard, you can just recycle it back to the field over and over again. But if as a 1 of, if you use it as a 2 of, it's gonna be a brick, and you're not gonna be able to use the effect twice. That's why a lot of people prefer to use it as 1. Moving on, though, we actually do have 2 copies of Witch of the Black Rose. This is a really interesting card because this card cannot be special summon. It has to be normal summon. And if it is normal summon, and if this is the only card you have on the field, you get to draw a card. And if it's a monster, then you can add it to your hand. If it's not a monster, both the card you drew and this card gets sent to the graveyard. And plus, it's a tuner. It's actually and plus it's a level 4 tuner. So if you were to tune this card with a card like say World Caraway Champion, you can automatically go into cards like say from Little Omega. You can go into you can go into Borderlo Savage Dragon, or even also cards like Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, all of which I am actually running in the extra deck, which I'll explain why later on. Again, it's just another really good, a good Black Rose generic, a good generic Black Rose card. Absolutely incredible. Some people will make a mistake, say it's better at 3. Honestly, in my opinion, I think it's better at 2, just because it's more consistent at 2. If it were to be at 3, just like with World Caraway Champion, it's not going to do you any good. Next up, I have the 1 copy of Blue Rose Dragon. What's cool, so what's interesting about Blue Rose is that this is I would consider this the brick of the whole deck, because the card has to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard. So that's the only downside. But obviously too, again, the card says when this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the grave, you can target 1 Black Rose Dragon or a plant monster in your grave and special summon that monster. So with this, if this is in your hand turn 1 and you don't have any plant monsters in your graveyard or anything like that, or even also Black Rose Dragon, this card is going to be the brick. So with this card, you have to be careful with how you play this card. So I mean don't get me wrong, it's a great card, it's an awesome card, but you need to have a Black Rose or even a plant monster in order to get its full in order to get its effect. But there is a way that you can do this, and that is actually using cards like Foolish Burial, or even also Super Poly, which will help you get a plant monster in your graveyard, so you can use Blue Rose's effect. So it can be a break, but it also can't. It just depends on how you see it. Next up, I'm actually using one of the new cards coming out of Lightning Overdrive, and that is Stay Sailor Romarine. If you guys don't know anything about what this card does, it has a quick effect that says you can target a face-up monster you control, send 1 plant monster you control to the grave, except the targeted monster. And if you do, the first time the targeted monster would be destroyed by a battle or card effect this turn is not destroyed. If this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can send a level 5 or lower plant monster from your deck or extra deck to the grave. You can only use each effect once per turn. So with this, with this, if you were to target something like say, I'll say Garden Rose Maiden. Let's say you have Garden Rose Maiden on the field, and this is also on your field as well. You can target Garden Rose Maiden, and it doesn't get destroyed. And this card is basically a Foolish Burial on its own. So this is another really good way for you to send your plant monsters to your graveyard, or even your Black Rose Dragon to your graveyard. So you can also go into Blue Rose Dragon's effect and go into, and you can automatically summon Black Rose Dragon from your graveyard, trigger its effect, banish one of your plants, and you can pretty much just go off with this. So it's a pretty cool card. I prefer to run this at 1. I know that some people might say it's better at 2. It's better off at 1 because you already have a Foolish Burial in your graveyard, and that is Foolish Burial. So with this, it's as if you have a second Foolish Burial. So that's why it's better off in 1. Next up, I am running 3 copies of White Rose Dragon. What's cool? So this is a really interesting card because with this, if this card is normal summon, you can special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your hand or graveyard, except this card. And the funny thing is that you can actually choose Black Rose Dragon. If Black Rose Dragon is in your graveyard, you can summon Black Rose Dragon from your grave with this effect, which is pretty insane. which is actually really, really good. And then obviously too, you can only use one of these two effects per turn. So if you control a dragon tuner or a plant tuner, you can special summon this card from your hand. So it's basically, so with this effect, it's basically like a cyber dragon of sorts, which is really, really good. And then its other effect says, if this card is sent to the grave as synchro material, you can send a level 4 or low or higher plant monster from your deck to the graveyard. So again, it's another form of Foolish Burial, which that's the main, which honestly that's the main one that you want to use the most, just because of the fact that you want to try and send as much of your plant monsters as possible to go into Blue Rose Dragon's effect and resummon it so you go into your synchro plays. Next up, I have 3 copies of Rox Rose Dragon. This is one of the newer ones, and this card says, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a card that specifically lists Black Rose Dragon and its text from your deck to your hand, except this card. If a face-up Rose Dragon monster or monsters and or plant synchro monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, while this card is in your grave, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So again, going back with what I said about White Rose and Stay Sailor. This card is not a Foolish Burial, but it's basically a monster reincarnation mixed in with a Stratos. So this is basically your Stratos for the deck, so to speak. So you can add a Rose Dragon, you can add cards like Rose Dragon, Blue Rose, Red Rose, or even also White Rose Dragon as well to your hand, and then you can just and then you can go and then you can special summon them, go into your link plays, like say Cross Rose Dragon or even Cross Sheep for that matter, and you can go into your combo plays as well. Next up, again the newer cards. Next up, we have 2 copies of Rose Princess. This card is actually interesting because if your opponent has a monster on the field, you can special summon this card from your hands. So it's basically a Cyber Dragon, but when you do summon it that way, it becomes a tuner monster. And you can, and the funny thing, and the thing is, you can only summon this card once per turn that way. And also once per turn, is it once per turn? Oh no, sorry. You can actually discard this card to add a field spell from your deck to your hand. What is that field spell? It is White Rose Cloister, which I am actually running 1 copy of. So this is basically your terraforming your Cyber Dragon terraforming, so to speak, for the deck. And Cloister is actually really good because you can just basically summon any Rose Dragon monster or a plant from your hand, which is really good. Which I'll go more in depth with that a little later on in the video. Next up, we have Red Rose Dragon. We actually have 2 copies of this one. Probably the weird one of the whole bunch, but when this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can special summon a Rose Dragon from your hand or deck. So it's basically like a double summon, so to speak, which is really, really good. So with this you can tune Red Rose Dragon and like say Caratway Champion into like say Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. Activate Red Rose Dragon's effect. Summon White Rose Dragon. Summon Rox Rose Dragon, and then again, and if you have another non-tuner in on the field, you can go ahead and summon another synchro monster from your extra deck, which that right there is just really good on its own. And then also if it was sent for the synchro summon of Black Rose Dragon or a plant synchro, you can also add Frozen Rose or Blooming of the Darkest Rose from your deck to your hand. So it's basically a searcher for Frozen Rose, which again I am only running one copy of. So it's a really excellent searcher and a double summon, basically, which is really good. Again, this deck pretty much ensures that you're able to go into your combo plays right off the bat. Next up, one copy of Rose Girl. Probably this is a really interesting card because it says if a face-up plant monster or monsters you control is sent to the grave, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. So with that effect, Cyber Dragon for days. Excuse me. If a plant monster is on the field and this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. So it's basically a Cyber Dragon monster reincarnation. Another way to go into your synchro plays, and you can also, truth be told, you can also, if you have the right materials, including this card, you can go into Blood Rose Dragon, which is the new one that I'm running, which I'll explain why later on. Next up, three copies of Lone Fire Blossom. I'm not saying anything more about this card except that it's Lone Fire Blossom. Next up, 2 copies of Ash Blossom. Obviously, you want to try to prevent your opponent from drawing cards, which it is what it is, and you'll know why. You'll know why I'm actually running the Ash Blossom a little later on as well. Next up, 2 copies of Dark Rose Fairy. This card is another form of Cyber Dragon, but the cost is that there has to be a tuner monster special summoned. So it doesn't matter whether you summon or your opponent summons the tuner monster. Either way, you can summon this card from your hand, which is really good. And then also too, if it's in your graveyard, you can send a card from your hand or field to the grave and place this card on either on top or on the bottom of your deck, which will give you another way to summon cards like Garden Rose Maiden, or even also the new one, Garden Rose Flora, which I'll explain why I'm running that card a little later on as well. Next up, the 1 copy of Double Warrior, probably another really weird card in the deck, but it works. Trust me, it works. It's incredible. This card is basically token summoning, which you can actually, truth be told, with some of these synchros, you can actually use the tokens to go into your synchro plays. That's why I'm running this card. And then also this brand new tuner monster called Witch of the Blood Rose, which is again coming out of Lightning Overdrive. This card is absolutely nutty. So if you don't know what this card does, it says you contribute this card, add 1 Witch of the Black Rose from your deck to your hand, which again it's a Stratos. So you're basically it's basically a Stratos to get out Witch of the Black Rose. And if you do, place a level 3 or lower plant monster from your deck from your deck on top of the deck. Then immediately after this card resolves, you can normal summon Witch of the Black Rose from your hand. So that right there. So when you tribute it, not only are you adding Witch of the Black Rose from your deck to your hand, you're also adding a plant monster from your deck to the top of your deck, and you basically get to double summon Witch of the Black Rose from your hand. That right there is absolutely nutty. Again, going into your synchro plays, you can also use it to go into your link plays as well, and also too, because that it's a dark monster. If your opponent has a dark monster on the field, you can activate Super Poly and go into Starving Venom, which I am actually running in the deck. And also too, the card also has another effect, which says you can banish this card from your graveyard, return 1 of your Black Rose Dragon or Blood Rose Dragon that is banished or in your graveyard to the extra deck, so you can summon them again, which is really good. And then to round up the monsters, I have the 1 Rose Lover, and then of course the 1 Spore. I'm not saying anything about Spore. It's Spore. You have to have it. Literally, it's basically another form of Glow Up Bolt, basically. For these spells, we have the 1 for 1. Again, you're basically summoning. You're summoning a level 1 monster. You can summon a level 1 tuner if you wanted, which again, Spore. Dare I say more? So the reason why I'm running Ash Blossom is because of this one, Triple Tactics Talent. This is probably by far one of the most broken cards in the entire in the entire meta. I believe I believe this came in Rise of the Duelist, if I remember correctly. This basically gives you multiple options, so you can either get the Pot of Greed effect, you can also get the Snatch Steal effect, or you can also get the Confiscation effect, which is absolutely nutty. So Ash Blossom, Triple T, I ain't saying anything more about it. Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, and also the one Super Poly, just really excellent, just really good extenders for the deck. Again, Foolish Burial, you send your plant monster, your plants to the grave. Blue Rose Dragon would kick into overdrive, and then of course Monster Reborn, you can summon Moonlight Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, nothing too crazy there. Super Poly, Starving Venom, nothing too crazy there. Frozen Rose is really good because you can so you can basically either draw 2 cards and then discard 1, or use the Rhoda effect and add a level 4 plant monster from your deck to your hand, which is really, really good. Next up, 3 copies of Basil Rose Shoot. This is another one of the new ones coming out of Lightning Overdrive. It says special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your hand or grave in defense position. That right there is like a Monster Reborn. It can be a Monster Reborn, but it can also be a double ace. It can also have you can also use it as a special summon from the hand effect, which is pretty good. If this set card is destroyed, you can target one of your Black Rose Dragon or one of your monsters that specifically list that card in its text that's managed in your grave, and special summon it. So it's basically its own version of DDR, Different Dimension Reincarnation, which is just absolutely busted. Absolutely busted. This is a must-have at 3. And then to round up the spells, Black Garden and also White Rose, Cloister. This card, again, talking about it earlier with the new Fool's Burial, with the Stay Sailor, it says if you control no monsters, you can special summon a Rose Dragon monster or a plant monster from your hand, which is really good. You can only use this effect once per turn. During your draw phase, before you draw, you can declare one type of card, monster, spell, or trap. Reveal the top card of your deck, and if it was the declared type for the rest of the turn, level 7 or higher synchro monster you control gains 1,000 attack, even if this card leaves the field. This is basically its own version of Destiny Hero Diamond Dude, but in field spell form, which is absolutely incredible. But it gains 1,000 attack. Your level 7 or higher synchros gain 1,000 attack. So it's basically its own like Axe of Despair type of deal, which is really good. And then for the traps, we have 2 copies of Wall of Thorns, which is basically a Mirror Force for the deck, which is really good. 2 Blossom Bombardment. This is basically a card that allows you to inflict damage to your opponent, equal to the destroy monster's attack. So if a monster like say Garden Rose Maiden were to attack into something like say just as an example, let's say Appaloosa, and it only has like 800 attack, which would be 1 negate. Your opponent would take damage equal to Appaloosa's attack, which would be 800. And then last but not least, the 1 Solemn Strike. I ain't saying nothing more about it. For the extra deck, we have the one Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. It's a really excellent Super Poly target, so nothing too crazy there. The 1 Blood Rose Dragon, the new card coming out of Lightning Overdrive. It's a generic tuner, non-tuner. And it says, if this card is synchro summon, you can banish as many cards as possible from the graveyard. So it's basically its own version of Called by the Grave. It literally just takes all the cards out of the graveyard, banishes them right off the bat, which is absolutely busted. Absolutely busted. Especially if your opponent has, especially if you're going up against decks like Sky Strikers that has multiple hand traps. This card could be useful. This card is really broken. Then if this card was synchro summoned using Black Rose Dragon or a plant synchro as material, you can destroy all other cards on the field. So it's not only a call by the grave, but it's also a dark hole. It's also a dark hole, heavy storm type of deal, which is busted. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards as a quick effect, tribute this card, negate the activation, and special summon Black Rose Dragon from your extra deck or graveyard, which I ain't saying any more about that card except that it's broken. Continuing on with the synchros, we have the one Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. This is a really excellent card because this card basically allows you to special summon your dark plant monsters from your graveyard, which is really good. Borderlord Savage Dragon, just a really excellent negate on board, and also too because that there are 4 link monsters in the extra deck, this card could be really useful. Could be extra useful. The 1 copy of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, another really good generic synchro monster, another excellent negate, absolutely insane. Ciphering Lord Omega, I ain't saying nothing more about it. Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, another really good like, this card is basically like a compulsory evacuation device for the deck, so it's really good. 2 copies of Black Rose Dragon. If you're not playing Black Rose Dragon, the card itself, you're not playing Black Rose. That's all I have to say. Garden Rose Maiden, which is basically the searcher for, which is basically your terraforming for Black Garden, and then Garden Rose Flora, which is basically, I believe this is the, if I remember correctly, this is the, I believe, hold on, okay, sorry, I think I understand. So this basically gives you more tokens that you can use as synchro material, which is really good. And you can also, actually, this also has a formula synchron effect where you can actually, during your opponent's turn, synchro summon using this card, which is absolutely nutty. And then for the link monsters, we have Boral Sword Dragon, Saryuja Skull Dragon, Cross Rose Dragon, and then of course Cross Sheep. For the side deck, Red Eyes, the Red Eyes Ninja. So we have Dark Magician, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Dragoon, and also the Red Eyes Fusion. 2 copies of Nibiru. I ain't saying nothing more. Again, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. The 1 Red Eyes Fusion, the 1 Called by the Grave. Just in case if you are going up against hand trap heavy decks, this card is actually really good. 2 copies of Twin Twister, 2 Thorn of Malice for Black Rose Dragon, and then of course the 2nd copy of Black Garden, and then for the traps we have Solemn Judgment, Solemn Warning, and then Judgment of Anubis, which again, if your opponent were to activate something like Twin Twister or something like that, this card would be absolutely nuts, and this could help you also attack for game, which is absolutely insane. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the deck, and whether or not I should switch it up a bit. I might do a switch up at some point, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. The links will be down in the description. And if you guys have any fan mail that you want to send me and want me to open up on the channel, 2021, I will be doing fan mail. My address will be in the description below so you guys can send fan mail. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.